Tiana Williams had always felt like an outsider. At Westlake High, a predominantly white, wealthy school, she stood out in every way. She wasn't rich, she wasn't thin, and most of all, she wasn't white. Her full figure, deep brown skin, and thick natural curls made her an easy target for the popular girls, especially Chloe, Madison, and Avery. "You sure you need that extra burger, Tiana?" Chloe sneered at lunch one day. "I bet she tips the scale every time she walks in," Madison whispered to Avery, who giggled behind her hand. "Careful, the floor might crack," Avery added, smirking. Tiana pretended their words didn't hurt. She lowered her gaze and pushed her tray aside, refusing to give them the satisfaction of seeing her cry. But every laugh, every whisper behind her back chipped away at her confidence. Even the teachers never intervened. She bottled it up until, one night, she couldn't hold it in anymore. At home, she sat across from her mother in their small but cozy apartment, her hands clenched into fists. "Mama, why do they hate me?" she asked, her voice cracking. Her mother, a strong woman with tired eyes and deep wisdom, pulled her close. "Baby, they don't hate you. They fear you. Because one day, you'll outshine them all." Tiana wanted to believe her, but right now, it felt impossible. When the school announced a field trip to Lakeview Park, Tiana's stomach churned. She had always dreaded swimming in public. She knew what would happen. "I don't want to go," she told her teacher. "It's mandatory, Tiana," the teacher said, barely looking at her. "You need to be part of the school community." Community? They never made her feel like she belonged. On the day of the trip, she wore a long t-shirt over her swimsuit, hoping to avoid attention. But the moment she stepped near the water, Chloe noticed her. "Oh my God, are you actually getting in? Won't the water overflow?" Laughter erupted. Tiana felt heat rise to her face. Then, before she could react, Avery shoved her forward. Her body plunged into the cold water. For a moment, the world was silent beneath the surface. Then, laughter. So much laughter. She gasped for air, panic rising in her chest. She wasn't the best swimmer, but she refused to drown in front of them. Struggling to the surface, she reached for the dock, her soaked t-shirt clinging to her body. Above her, Chloe stood with her phone, recording. "You look like a drowned hippo," Madison snickered. Tears burned in Tiana's eyes. She would never forget this moment. Never. That night, Tiana locked herself in her room. She refused dinner. She refused to speak. But something inside her was changing. She had spent too long letting them win. She stood in front of the mirror, staring at her reflection, her full cheeks, her thick arms, her wide hips, all the things they made fun of. "Why should I let them control how I feel?" she whispered. Her mother's words echoed in her mind. "One day you'll outshine them all." And for the first time, she believed it. The next morning, she made a decision. She didn't want revenge. She wanted transformation. Not just on the outside, but on the inside. She started waking up at dawn to go for a jog. She couldn't last 5 minutes at first, but she kept going. She swapped junk food for healthier meals. She trained, studied, and worked on herself, physically and mentally. Days turned into weeks. Weeks turned into months. And she didn't just lose weight. She gained confidence, strength, power. When Tiana walked into school that fall, the world stopped. She wasn't just thinner. She was glowing. Her posture was different. She held her head high. Chloe, Madison, and Avery stared in disbelief. For once, they had nothing to say. At lunch, Chloe finally spoke. "Wow, Tiana, you actually look decent now." The old Tiana would have shrunk under that backhanded compliment. "But the new Tiana?" She smiled. "And yet, you're still the same ugly person inside." The cafeteria went silent. For the first time, Chloe had no comeback, because Tiana had already won. That day, Daniel Carter, one of the school's wealthiest and most respected students, walked up to her. He had always seen what was happening, but he had never stepped in. "You were always beautiful, you know," he said. Tiana raised an eyebrow. "Then why didn't you say anything before?" He smiled. "Because I wanted you to see it for yourself first." And now she did, because beauty wasn't about size or skin color. It was about knowing your worth. And now, Tiana knew.